Hey guys, John here, today with another request video. This is going to be Depeche Mode, The New Revolution, and we're going to try to create this bass here in the beginning. So there's a lot of other percussive stuff happening in the background, so we're just going to be focusing on the bass itself. And this is the version I came up with here. Original. So basically, let's dive into this and see how this is reconstructed. So we turn off the original here and let's focus on just what we have. So we're over here in Pigments and we're using two engines, engine 1 and engine 2, and both on the analog setting. So we turn off engine 2 here and let's focus on number 1. So we have oscillator 1, and that's going to be a saw wave, and the volume is going to be all the way at the top at 0 dB. Second oscillator is going to be also a saw wave, and it's going to be minus 13.4, and then the chorus pitch is going to be down 1 octave. Next up, we have oscillator 3, and this is going to be a triangle wave, and this is going to be at minus 9.06, and the chorus is going to be up 1 octave, so up 12 semitones. Now, this drift knob here is going to be at 0 because we don't necessarily want to have that drift effect of the oscillator happening at small different intervals of time, so we have that at 0 right there. We do have unison on, but I decided not to use it for this engine, so that's going to be off, so one voice here, so kind of don't worry about this section as well. This output is going to be going to filter number 1, which is right over here, and the volume is going to be at 0 dB, so it's going to be at the default volume. This filter is going to be at LP24, so 24 dB per octave, and the cutoff is about 1,312 hertz. As you can see, this is getting modulated here. Now if we click this plus, we can see that it's going to be envelope number 2. So the envelope number 2 is going to be attack at 1 millisecond, the decay 300 milliseconds, sustain is going to be at 0, and the release is at 100 milliseconds. And we're only modulating it by 0.20. So the filter opens up just a little bit as the notes are struck, and then it closes it. Next up, let's go to engine number 2, and let's turn off number 1. So it's going to be slightly a little bit different. All three are going to have the same coarse tuning here. Saw wave for 1, saw wave for number 2, and the triangle wave as well. But I think I decided not to use this. I did have it kind of programmed in there, and then I definitely brought it down because I felt like it didn't work. So if I added this back in here, maybe it didn't seem like it worked. So just generally, we're going to be using 1 and 2. Full volume for the first one, and the second one is going to be minus 8.89. Also getting set to filter number 1 at almost the full volume, but minus 1.64. And with both of these together, we have a more full sound in that sense. Now we dive over to our effects tab, and we're going to be using 3 slots here. The first one is going to be the distortion, because there's a lot of distortion in the original sound. If we go back to the original and take a listen to it here, there's a lot of saturation and distortion on this sound. Again, ignoring the percussive stuff. So the best way to recreate this here is I first added a soft clip here. So let's turn the reverb off and the distortion off. So we have a lot of soft clip here. The drive is going to be 38.9 dB and the dry wet's 50%. And I also added this low pass here because if we don't, we get a lot of that nasty top end stuff. So definitely turn the low pass on here, and the cutoff is going to be 352 hertz and the resonance at 0.707. Now we need a little bit more distortion here. So we click distortion again, another instance of that. And this time we're going to be using tape. The drive is going to be 32 dB and then the dry wet 50%. And then this low pass as well, quite a steep here at cutoff 88.1 hertz and then resonance 1.36. And this is going to be pre and post so the first one's going to be post and the next one's going to be pre. So the difference with this out and in, we start to recreate that kind of analog-y, older style type of distortion, which is why we're going to soft clip and then tape. Next up is going to be the reverb, so we turn this on here, and it's going to be just a little bit to kind of add more room to the sound at 26% for the dry wet. The size is 1, pre-delay 20 milliseconds, the decay is going to be 0.460, dampening 0.6, stereo width 0.5, input high pass 284 hertz, and then the low pass about 13K. And that's pretty much it for this patch here. Definitely, if you're doing this in a different type of synth, the kind of I guess, takeaways here is this going to be using a lot of saw waves, maybe a little bit of triangles here like I did on the first engine to kind of add a little bit more musicality to it, if that makes any sense. And then really the meat and potatoes is going to be the filter opening and closing once you hit the notes, and then a lot of the distortion and the right types of distortion to really match it. And definitely with patch recreation, especially things that are very old or older, maybe a couple 10, 15 something years ago like that, it's almost impossible to recreate something 100% because we don't necessarily know the exact synth, or maybe the modules are different, or maybe they're recorded through different things. They have different modules, different settings. So we can get pretty close, and this one seems pretty close, but in the end, we can never get 100%. So if you're ever trying to make a patch and you get frustrated that it's not 100%, keep in mind that that's nearly impossible to do unless you have the exact same equipment, the same synth, the same type of recording, the same effects that are posted on there, what it's recorded to, and so on and so forth. There's so many variables that are going back and forth between recreation, but generally we can get almost about 90-95% there with what we have nowadays. And generally, if you don't have the Pigment synth, you should get it because there's so many options available in the synth to recreate almost anything, and it does have the analog type of sound. Or you can go with a new type of sound. You have wavetable synth, you have the harmonics engine, and the sampler, granular synthesis, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of options you can do. Not to mention the effects tab, which a lot of synths wouldn't allow you to put two different modules of the same module in a synth. So, and you have 3 banks here on FXA, FXB, you have another 3, and then you have auxiliary sends that you can go and send other stuff to with this send level here. So keep in mind, this is a very cool synth to recreate stuff, and always use the best synth for the job that you're trying to do. So hopefully you learned something from this video. If you like this patch, it's available for free download if you have Pigments, and we'll see you in the next video.